Hey everyone, my name is GameStach, and recently I've noticed a lot of EU4 beginners visiting my channel. I've already made a more in-depth EU4 tutorial where I go over all important things when you're just starting to play EU4, and you can click here if you want to see that tutorial. And I've also started a less scripted tutorial series where I just play as the Ottomans and explain everything as things happen. That series of course takes a very long time to watch, and if you're not interested in watching that all the way through, I've taken the most important points from that series and comprised them into one video. So let's get started with 4 must-know tips for EU4 beginners. Let's start with probably the most important one. Watch your aggressive expansion. I cannot stress enough how important that one is. This one fucked me over so many times when I just started to play the game. That is probably the case since I think it is not explained in the tutorial that was added by the game itself. So aggressive expansion is a number that increases when you conquer provinces and which declines slowly over time. You probably don't even know what your aggressive expansion is because it is not stated explicitly in the UI. To see your aggressive expansion, you have to go to the coalition map mode. You do that by going to diplomatic map modes, and it's the third option here. The more red a nation is, the more aggressive expansion it has towards you. When you hover over a nation, you will also see 0 or a negative integer. So what does that mean? Why is having a lot of aggressive expansion bad? If a nation reaches -50 aggressive expansion towards you, they can join a coalition against you. A coalition is basically a group that nations can join, and if one of them attacks you, everyone attacks you at the same time. The only big problem is that there is no limit to the size of this group. If 1 or 2 nations reach -50 aggressive expansion towards you, you don't really need to worry. Because firstly, a coalition of 2 nations is not really that big. Of course, that depends on how large your army is. And secondly, there's a chance that those nations will not even join the coalition. Because most nations will only join the coalition if there is a very big number of people that can join the coalition. So by that I mean that there are more people that have -50 aggressive expansion towards you. Also, don't be afraid of nations joining a coalition against you without you knowing. You will always get a notification if someone joins the coalition against you. Lastly, if people join a coalition against you, this does not always mean you will have to go to war with them. Sometimes people will just leave the coalition after some time. Okay, so how can you counter this problem? Because you still want to take over a lot of provinces, but you don't want to get a coalition against you. So take a look here. Here I'm making a peace deal. When you're adding provinces, you have to watch this box here, because this will show you how much aggressive expansion you'll get towards other nations. Just keep adding provinces until you see this icon appear. This means that if you send this peace deal and they accept, there will be nations that can join a coalition against you, but maybe will not do so. Hover over the icon to see which nations can do that. Then consider whether it's bad if these nations join a coalition against you. You can see that I'm at war with Byzantium right now, and after this war they will no longer exist and therefore will not even be able to join a coalition against me. So it doesn't matter that they show up here. So if that list here doesn't get too bad, just keep adding provinces to the peace deal. And when it gets too bad, just remove them until you're satisfied with that list. And then send the peace deal. My next tip is closely related to the previous one, and it is conquer provinces more cleverly. So let's get back to the previous example of aggressive expansion. What if you want to take provinces from 2 nations that are allied? Okay, let me explain. So let's say you want to conquer Ramazan, and Ramazan is allied with Dul Qadir over here. Ramazan has only 1 province, so you will never reach the maximum amount of aggressive expansion as we saw in the previous part. So it would also be nice if we could take some provinces from Dul Qadir, because hey, why not? We're already at war, right? But this is where the problem arises. Taking provinces from nations that are allied to your target will cost you additional aggressive expansion. To get around this, you have to do the following. If you declare war, be sure to tick this box over here. This way the cost for aggressive expansion will be normal. But, there is a very big but, ticking this box will allow Dul Qadir to also call in his allies. So if you tick that box, be sure to hover over it for some time. Because as you can see, it will give you a list of his allies that might join the war. Phew, those last tips were a bit hard to digest, so let's get down to some easier tips. The next tip is, don't expand your army too quickly. While getting stronger is one of the goals of the game, of course, you shouldn't do this when this is not really needed. So say you're the Ottomans. It's early game, you have a very big army and your neighbors are small. Yes, you could make a bigger army, but it's a better idea to invest in some advisors. Getting ahead, especially in military technology, will give you a far better advantage than having some extra infantry. The second reason why you should not make your army too big is because of the army force limit. If you go to the production interface, you can see the maximum size your army may be. If you build up exactly to the force limit, you might think, oh, there's nothing to worry about, right? Well, not entirely true. Sometimes this value will drop due to unexpected events, and then you would have to delete some of your army, costing you valuable manpower and money. So if you really want to expand your army, Keep it below the force limit. And finally, this may be a bit obvious, but it wasn't exactly obvious to me when I started. You can't ally everyone. Of course, I don't mean literally allying everyone. In some games you can ally only a specific number of countries, but in EU4 you can ally everyone. This seems like a way you can become indestructible, but you have to keep your eye on the relationship slots that you have filled. You can check this by clicking on your nation's flag, going to diplomacy, and if you don't see your own nation here, clicking on this icon over here. Then, if you watch up here, you see that I have one relationship slot filled of the 4 that I have. It is important to know that certain relationship types will fill this slot. For example, having a royal marriage and nothing else with one nation will fill one slot. If you have both a royal marriage and an alliance with a nation, it will still take one slot. If you only have military access, it will also take one slot, until of course you end the military access. If you have all 3 I just mentioned, it will still take one slot. Basically, having any type of relationship with one nation will take one slot. So keep an eye on your slots, because for every nation you go over the limit, you will have to play 1 Diplo power each month. And that ends my list of tips I have for beginners. What is something you're having trouble with in EU4 and you want to see a next video about? Leave it down in the comments below. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more of these kinds of videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.